Hey guys, so today I will be sharing a short devotion about the Psalms and prayer. I'm going to begin with a passage from Praying the Psalms and then move on to the scripture. By the denial of death, Becker refers to the given limit of human reality and the refusal to accept the horizon of mortality. That refusal is evidenced in both the endless attempts to outflank the diminishment of our bodies, such as through diet, exercise, and cosmetics, and in the lethal ordering of the body politic in a frantic attempt to maintain control over a life that cannot finally be controlled. But such denial happens not just at crisis points. It happens daily in the reduction of language to numb conventions. Thus, I suggest that most of the Psalms can only be appropriately prayed by people who are living at the edge of their lives, sensitive to the raw hurts, the primitive passions, the naive elations that are at the bottom of our life. For most of us, liturgical or devotional entry into the Psalms requires a real change of pace. It asks us to depart from the closely managed world of public survival, to move out into the open and freeing and healing world of speech with the Holy One. You see, often we let the words of Scripture in our prayers to just run through our head, along with many other passing thoughts, to never really dig deep, to make that connection between your head and your heart. So often, we close off those parts of us that hold the deepest longings, the deepest desires of our hearts, the past pains that we carry, the guilt and shame. We hide them away in cages, in prisons. We don't let anyone see. And thus, they remain, never healed, continuing to influence our daily lives. And our prayers become an act, outwardly saying words that don't inwardly reflect the state of our hearts, that we don't allow to reach into our being. Thus, God calls us to pray from those deep places in our hearts, to allow Him into those places. And that's just what David does. We're going to be reading from Psalm 18. In this psalm, David has been running from Saul. Saul had gotten jealous because David was popular. David had slayed tens of thousands, where Saul had only slayed his thousands. And so Saul was very angry. He did not like the fact that David was disrupting his sense of power and of control over the nation. And so he tried to kill him. David's living his life on the run, constantly running, constantly in fear of death, living in the wilderness, hiding in caves, never knowing when Saul might find him and take his life. And from that place of desperation, David turns to God. He lets God into that deep-seated fear within him, into all of those places. And God rescues him and delivers him from Saul. I don't know what you're running from right now. Maybe you are overcome with fear as well. You're afraid of the future, or even of the situation that's going on right here, right now. Maybe you're running from your past, from a sin, from a memory, from something that you have hidden deep within yourself for so long that you haven't even let God touch that part of you. I ask as I read this psalm that you will let God in to that place of your heart. That you will choose to stop running and to turn to God, to cry out to Him and allow Him to meet you and bring you into a new and spacious land. To a place where you once again have hope and peace and joy, where you experience the goodness of God. But first, you have to admit that there is brokenness in your life, and you have to let Him into that place. Okay. I love you, Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God, my rock where I seek refuge. My shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I called to the Lord who is worthy of praise, and I was saved from my enemies. The ropes of death were wrapped around me. The torrents of destruction terrified me. The ropes of Sheol entangled me. The snares of death confronted me. I called to the Lord in my distress, and I cried to my God for help. From His temple, He heard my voice, and my cry to Him reached His ears. Then the earth shook and quaked. The foundations of the mountains trembled. They shook because He burned with anger. Smoke rose from His nostrils, and consuming fire came from His mouth. Coals were set ablaze by it. He bent the heavens and came down. Total darkness beneath His feet. He rode on a cherub and flew, soaring on the wings of the wind. He made darkness His hiding place, dark storm clouds His canopy around Him. From the radiance of His presence, His clouds swept onward with hail and blazing coals. The Lord thundered from heaven. The Most High made His voice heard. He shot His arrows and scattered them. He hurled lightning bolts and routed them. The depths of the sea became visible. The foundations of the world were exposed at your rebuke, Lord, at the blast of the breath of your nostrils. He reached down from on high and took hold of me. He pulled me up out of the deep water. He rescued me from my powerful enemy and from those who hated me, for they were too strong for me. They confronted me in the day of my calamity, but the Lord was my support. He brought me out to a spacious place. He rescued me because He delighted in me.